Oh, what's going on, GameLeapers? It is, of course, the Cheese back at it. And in this video, you will find out the 15 champions affected most by the massive buffs and nerfs thus far in 11.6, because with each patch, guys, there are a bunch of changes that influence the league meta. So to know which champions you should or shouldn't keep playing for the rest of this patch, stick around for the next 10 or so minutes. Now, you will also notice something different about this video. There are timestamps. The Cheese and Co have listened to you guys for weeks and months now, so for the next week, our champions and builds videos will feature the stamps. And you better like the video for that, by the way. Now, back to the video. I want to know how much pain or joy you guys have been through from the changes that have impacted your favorite champion thus far in Season 11. For my beloved Shaco, for example, I didn't even play the Jester until 11.5 when Riot finally buffed his box damage to monsters because it was far too stressful before that. Now, while you're telling me about your champion, I'm also going to tell you guys to check out the GameLeap website. Unlike other sites, guys, we upload fresh daily content. That's right, daily. That is up to date with the meta so you can stay ahead of the competition this season. So if you want another daily dose of cheese in your life, click on the links in the description or comment section and get signed up. Alright, let's get into it, guys, and we're going to start with the champions worse off this patch from the 11.6 changes that have caused a decrease in win rate, so generally speaking, you want to be a little bit careful when picking them. Now, this first champion's win rate has decreased by 1% in only a couple of days, and that's because she got directly nerfed a few days ago. So for Lillia, guys, 11.6 was the first buff or nerf Riot have given to you, so your ultimate's cooldown is now 20 seconds longer at each rank, and this has obviously had an impact. You don't have as much opportunity as before to put your enemies to sleep, especially in the early game when you don't have that much ability haste, so yeah, a bit of a hit this one. Now, there was also a nerf to Ravenous Hunter, so you start the game with 0 Omni Vamp and stack less of it, so in terms of sustain while clearing your camps and fighting enemy champions, you're less healthy and easier to kill. Lillia has been picked a lot in pro play this season, and honestly, this change might be enough to balance her more at that level of play, meaning that you Lillia mains won't have to worry about any more nerfs, but it is the Riot balance team we're talking about, so expect anything. Now, just ahead of Lillia, guys, we have an AD carry who has not appreciated the 11.6 changes Rito threw at us, with her win rate decreasing over 1%. So for Vayne, guys, this particular patch, well, it's not as good as recent ones apparently. Like Lillia, the Ravenous Hunter nerf has had a big impact. The laning phase is a lot scarier because you're missing out on all important lifesteal, and keep in mind the laning phase for Vayne, especially early on, is weak anyway, so this hits pretty hard. And speaking of the laning phase, Vayne's hardest lane matchup got buffed a couple of patches ago, and as a result, Caitlyn has become a lot more popular, meaning that more games are harder to become relevant in and carry. Generally, for all you Vayne players as well, she's one of those AD carries who can fend for herself, which is a major positive this season, but it takes a lot of games and practice tooling to master her. I mean, even if you are Gosu level on Vayne, it's near impossible to get rid of that Stridebreaker Darius, or a Luden's Tempest Mage bursting 75% of your HP with a couple of spells. So yeah, 11.6 not the best patch and time to play Vayne, but a 50% overall win rate is more than fine. Now, this next champion, the Cheese had her as his #1 top laner in 11.6, and to be honest, it is kind of true. She has a 54% win rate in Master and above, but for the rest of us mere mortals, it's been harder to make Quinn work this patch. Now, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this in this video, but here we go again. The Ravenous Hunter nerf has made your laning phase a little weaker, and I think there's a change in the 11.6 notes that has made it harder for marksmen in general to rack up as many kills as before, and that's the bug fix to Sterak's Gauge. So these bruisers and fighters you see on the regular like Darius, Camille, Garen, Wukong, they are a heck of a lot harder to kill, and while you're spending 10 seconds getting them to half HP, the rest of your team is dead and you're left crying in the corner. That's probably another reason why Vayne has had a harder go of it this patch too, just like Quinn. Now, this next drop in win rate, guys, seems very placebo indeed, because Fiddlesticks is holding on close to a 53% win rate in higher levels of play, but his overall win rate has dropped almost 1.5%. Now, I don't know if he lost a few pounds, if that's possible, but Fiddlesticks in lower levels of play isn't as strong apparently. I mean, your clear is still good as, you don't need Ravenous Hunter, and what's even weirder is that Gromp and Smite got buffed, so very placebo this one, no reason to look too much into it and refund all your Fiddlesticks skins. Now, another champion who has dropped almost 1.5% in terms of win rate is the top laner, and this time we know exactly why this has occurred. So in 11.6, guys, Riot nerfed Mini Gnar, so your W's bonus magic damage is down at all ranks, and what this means is that yes, you're missing out on a bit of DPS for champions, and it's a little harder to secure CS with your third auto attack, but the shining light in this is that your max health percentage damage is still there in your W, and this is where most of your W's damage comes from. It's still somewhat surprising to see Gnar drop as much as this though, given the Sterak's Gauge bug fix, so will this be enough to stop Gnar from being pick banned in pro, which is what Riot want? We'll have to wait and see. Right, we're getting to the meaty end of the stick here, guys, and the following 3 champions have regressed the most since the 11.6 changes, and the first of the 3 is a mage who is mostly played as a jungler these days, and Riot weren't happy about how OP he was in the jungle, so they decided to nerf Karthus' Q damage at later ranks. With the Ravenous Hunter nerf as well, there it is again, it's harder to smash through jungle camps from level 3 onwards and stay healthy, so your clear is slower and you are more exploitable, and that's why Karthus' win rate has gone down close to 2% so far this patch. Now just ahead of Karthus, guys, is another jungler who got jabbed in the 11.6 patch, but is still performing at a high level. So if you guys are abusing Hecarim for LP at the moment, keep doing so. Now you aren't as strong as last patch, that's for sure. Like Karthus, your Q is dealing less damage at later ranks, and seeing as you max this first, it matters. Your clear, your team fighting, it's all a little weaker. The Rav Hunter nerf on top of that makes clearing a little more dangerous, so yes, worse off for Heck in 11.6, but still a top tier jungler. Now like the Fiddlesticks win rate change, this one is more whack because nothing this patch has affected this champion in any real way. But for some reason, Bard's win rate across the board has dropped 2%. None of his items got nerfed, runes untouched, so the cheese is putting it down to players in low elo playing him more as a mid laner or top laner. Guys, you win under 40% of your games on Bard going into those solo lanes, so please stop to make my job easier. Bard has a 53% win rate as a support in high elo at the moment, guys, so this drop is just a massive G up. Now it's time to talk about those champions who should be thanking Riot for increasing their win rate this patch. And if you're enjoying the structure of this video, guys, let us know by leaving a like down below. And starting off the winners of 11.6, we have a champion benefiting from that gauge bug fix and the fact that barely anyone knows how to play against him. So for you gravediggers out there, you'll be pleased to know Yorick's win rate has increased by 1% in 11.6, and his overall win rate is close to 53%. So if you want to one-trick a champion this season and climb, I tell you what, Yorick is a very good shout. The working bloodline stacks and the gauge mean you're a real pain to try to take down as the game progresses, and yeah, you're just a monster when that late game rolls around. Now ahead of Yorick, guys, is one of the few mages in the game who doesn't run Ravenous Hunter, so that's a bonus, I guess, and he is also relishing the buff to Luden's Tempest. So for Viktor, guys, 11.6 has been kind. The new effect in Luden's means you can proc its Echo passive a lot more, and on Viktor, this is super easy. Both parts of your upgraded Q and E trigger the extra cooldown, so you get access to that movement speed and Echo damage multiple times in extended fights, and this allows you to bolt around all over the place with the movement speed from your discharge as well, throwing out damage left, right, and center. So 11.6 Viktor, guys, one of the best mages for sure. Now this next champion who's benefited from 11.6 is typically played in the jungle, but the 11.6 rework and buffs honestly make him scary in the mid lane out of all roles. So for Xin Zhao, guys, your win rate has gone up over 1%, and yes, it would be hard not to improve given the state Xin was in prior to 11.6, but still, he is more playable because of the new AP ratios in your kit and some very interesting changes to your abilities. And I'm going to show you one of these right here. Your new W challenges enemies it hits, and you can now dash to these champions with your E from half a lane away. So with Halo Blaze, your kill threat is as high as any other champion in the laning phase. So if you want to know what all the fuss is about, guys, test this out and build an Everfrost and Nash's Tooth as well for a bit of CC and DPS, and you will know why the cheese is raving about it. Now coming in next is a champion who has been a regular fixture on our Worst Champion series, and it makes me happy to say this. Gangplank is better off in 11.6. So much so that the Pirate has a 53% win rate in high elo, and that is thanks to the Immortal Shield Bow changes. So as you can see, Riot reduced and then took out the lifesteal in its lifeline passive and compensated this with attack damage and a bigger shield. Now as Gangplank, you don't have much health and you're not all that tanky, so when you're met with the slightest bit of burst damage or CC, you can die real quick, but not anymore. You have that protection. The extra AD is also super useful because this gets transferred into your Q and auto attacks, of course, so even in 1v1s it comes in clutch and lets you battle it out against those late game weapons like Fiora and Camille. Granted, if you haven't yet mastered the powder kegs, it's hard to have a legit impact on a game, but if you can embrace your inner Tobias fate, 11.6 GP works, guys. Now this next champion's win rate has increased 1.5% so far this patch, and he felt a lot of the changes, mostly in a good way. So for Sylas, your passive attack speed increased by over 50%, making your combos cleaner, and your W's cooldown while healing you for a little less, costs less mana, and takes less time to come back up at later ranks, making your mid to late game even stronger. Now your go-to keystone, Fleet Footwork, was nerfed, so its AP ratio got lowered, but this isn't the end of the world by any means. It still does its job in helping you battle your way out of the early game, and yes, the Ravenous Hunter nerf is another hit you'll sustain, but the fact your win rate has increased proves that Sylas is in a better spot. He's getting played way more because of it, so get around the trend, guys. Now we've got 2 more champions left, and the cheese is going to quickly remind you to check out the GameLeap website to master any of the champions we've been through. Like thousands of your fellow summoners are taking advantage of our exclusive content while you keep watching Pro Guards ads. Links down below. So the champion with the second biggest improvement in win rate in 11.6, guys, is the top laner who Riot buffed to make work in the jungle. And this has seen Volibear's win rate increase by close to 2%. And if you played Volibear or played against him, let me know what it was like. In fact, overall, Volley's win rate is hovering around 54% in the jungle, which is now his best role according to the numbers. So your W's healing against monsters is now at 100% effectiveness, and you max this first. And your E's damage to monsters can now be as much as 750. So your clear is quicker and healthier, and in this meta, that's what you need to pop off. So if you want to jungler this patch, guys, Volibear is right up there. Now the champion who has reacted most to the changes in 11.6, well, her win rate has increased almost almost 4%. That's how big they were. So for all you Akali mains out there, she is back. And for the rest of us, no doubt we are all molding at this point, but the 11-6 changes that nerfed your early game but buffed your mid to late game have given you an even bigger power spike to work towards, and as long as you take it easy for the first 5 or so minutes of the laning phase, there's no reason you cannot 1v9 most games. And this was your game plan anyway, really, to chill in the early game until level 6 came around and then you engage. Now we have to recognize that with the fleet nerf and Ravenous Hunter nerf, this is harder to achieve and you're going to have to give up more CS to survive the early lane, so don't feel pressured to win the lane ASAP. Play towards that scaling. Akali's overall win rate is now 49%, which is huge because champions with a high skill ceiling typically have lower win rates, so with this being so close to 50%, if you know the tricks of the trade, you are in a great spot. And Akali mains, let me know what you think of the changes in the comments. Interesting for sure. So those are the big swingers of 11.6, guys, and make sure to hit that sub button and the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's upload. This has been Coach Ease, and until then, peace.